Hi guys, welcome to Sacred Space with Carol Ann. Of course, I'm Carol Ann. This is my friend Janet Beckmeyer. So she and I go to church together when we have church, and even not right now, we're all masked up and very far apart from everybody you know. But just so you know ahead of time, Janet and I both practice extreme safety with other people, so I don't want you to be concerned about that. But we didn't want to wear our masks for this because we're all sick of it, right? And you're not sitting in your house with your mask on. So we want to bring a little bit of home to you. So those of you who've not been before or even been before, you have to listen to this over again. But this is my husband. I have the sweetest husband in the world. But this was his like man cave before I came into the picture. And so since I've been in the picture, I managed to get I wanted a place out here where I could sit and meditate and be by myself. So I created this little meditation space back here, Janet. Nice. So I have numerous spiritual texts and things back here. I have a little table with a cushion in front of it, and everything on my little table is a gift or some memorabilia of someone who's already passed away, and they're important to me in my life and to my life's journey. And I have other little things around here. So, but everything else in here, I tell people all the time, Jan, it's like Cracker Barrel on crack, because there's just stuff. Guys, if you could see all the way around this room, if there was a 360, I'm gonna have to do this one day, because what you see right here, you just imagine all the walls in here this way. Yeah.
When you said Cracker Barrel, you hit it right.
I love people coming out here for the first time. Now, guys, you can't see, but there's some beautiful red lights up here. I have the filming lights on, so it's a lot brighter in here. But in the summertime or whenever it's not COVID, we can actually get to have people out here. We open up the barn door, and we have a fire out in the little fire pit, and there's red lighting in here and some tea lighting and all kinds of stuff. It's so pretty, and I will film that for you one day as soon as I can figure out how to film in the dark. I tried it one time, it wasn't so good. But anyway, so Janet said, you're right, it was like Cracker Barrel. So it really is. It's a very cool place. We have a bathroom here as well with a urinal in it. So what in the world? I know there's a couch over here, and when I don't have filming going on, it's set up like a living room almost, like the little
It looks nice. It looks cozy.
I know, it's very cozy. Got carpet and everything.
Yeah,
my goodness, yeah. Right. And because it's cold in here, I have heat, but if I turn the heater on, you guys can't hear me. So I have a little space heater for she and I to sit here. This point won't freeze while we do this.
But it's like 24 degrees outside.
Oh, and now I feel colder now that sorry. You told me that. So now
I think it warmed up a degree.
Oh, 1 degree. All right, we're heading somewhere. I think this weekend we're supposed to be down like 14 or something. -1 or 14 for the high. There's no place that anybody should live that has cold air.
But the snow is pretty.
The snow is pretty. Got a lot of snow on the ground. Now, I moved here from the south. So what they say in the South is if there's snow on the ground, it's just waiting for some more. So in my mind, I'm like, hurry up and melt so we don't get any more.
That's kind of how it's happened.
Oh yeah, it's exactly
snow,
right.
A couple more days, more snow.
Southerners are very smart people. Very smart people. They say an awful lot of stuff that really rings true. So guys, we're going to talk about osteoporosis. Now, Janet does not have osteoporosis. First of all, I want to tell you that. But I do want you to know that, stand up for me, Janet. Janet is the body type that's very often with osteoporosis. She's slim, she's short to the ground, she's not very tall. I'm 5'8", so I'll just show you how. There we go. See, she's tall. I'm tall, she's not tall, but she has this body shape that very often women who get osteoporosis, they tend to be slim and smaller, smaller and slim. So I thought she would be a perfect example. So let's sit back down and talk about osteo for a minute. So, and then we're going to talk about what you should not do. Now, first of all, this is going to be like a regular class. This is going to be for us to understand osteoporosis a little bit more. Women get 4 times. Let me rephrase that. Women will get osteoporosis 4 times more than men do. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have estrogen. Now, men who get osteoporosis is because they have a drop in their testosterone, will cause their bones to get a little bit less dense. Women, it's our estrogen. I remember, this is going to be a little bit TMA, I'm sorry, but when I went through some great deal of hormonal changes, my gynecologist told me, he said that for women, that estrogen was our brain, our thinking skills. it was of course, our children produce it, you know how to do that.
Right.
But he said it's your brain, it's your bone density, it's your vitality, it's your sanity, basically. For women, estrogen is everything. You just ask a woman who's low on estrogen, maybe you better not ask her that, just observe.
Yeah, right.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
I just went through that with and I went to go get a pharmacy. I wear an estrogen patch, just so you guys know, very low dose. But I was so anxiety ridden, you know why? It's because my prescription wasn't ready, and I told the pharmacist, like, this is what this looks like for people like me, we don't have estrogen. I thought, oh, I need that patch, you know, it's terrible. So anyway, and I'm also could be prone to that, and I'm very tall, but I'm very thin. And so we have to talk a little bit about that with osteoporosis. So really what it is where the bones become less dense. And whenever the bones become less dense, we're more apt to have a fracture or something. So women, listen, we get it 4 times more than men do. So we're the biggest ones that get that. So we need to be aware. But the problem is, Janet, is a lot of times women don't know that they have it unless they have a bone density test.
I did have one done.
You did, and you came out okay?
Yes, I did.
Yes, I did good. Well, you know, sometimes it'll see a little thinning of the bones, and they call that osteopenia. It's like a precursor to osteoporosis. I had that in my 30s. Actually had that. Don't have it anymore. I had to go on the Fosamax or one of those kind of things for a little while. That kind of healed it up, but I have to be very careful. So let me tell Janet, a couple things that really increase osteoporosis. Too much alcohol. What in the world? Too much alcohol does that. Smoking will increase it.
Don't say caffeine.
No, I didn't find any research. Yay, coffee. Woo. So we can have that, but you can even have wine, just not too much. You don't want to drink too much, you know, because that'll actually. But smoking is not good for anything, believe me. So that's a habit to get rid of. But that actually makes it much worse. And so also too, with our estrogen levels dropping, so it's important for us as women to be able to get our estrogen levels checked. When we go for our physicals every year, it's okay to ask them to do a broad spectrum panel on our hormone levels, you know, just to find out. And women don't tend to have a bone density test, but either at certain ages, unless there's some kind of inclination that you might be suffering from that. So it's okay to ask for that as well, you know, to ask for bone density if you want to know. Because sometimes what happens is women will actually break or fracture a bone and then find out they've got osteoporosis. Because why? They're not getting the rounding yet, but the bones are getting thinner and thinning, so they're more likely to snap.
That's why I had a
bone
density because I had a fracture in L4. I was in an accident.
Okay.
And then I just had some lower back pain and some pain through here where I hit the steering wheel. And the yoga has really helped.
Okay, good. Yoga.
I still have the lower back, so I thought, well, maybe I need to get a bone density test. And so I did, and it came out fine.
Good. Yeah, I know
I need to do it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So often.
Well, she's brought up this great thing because yoga is good for it. So we're going to talk about things you should not do first. Okay. So if you have osteoporosis, do not run, do not jog. You don't do anything that's going to jar the body whenever that's not good for you. So swimming is good, yoga is good, light weights are good. Light weights are great for women. Women always use the excuse about, I don't want to get bulky. Let me tell you, women are not going to get bulky from weights unless you're doing the extreme stuff. And if you can't do that with osteoporosis, you're not going to lift. You're not going to do deadlifts, with 200-pound weights. We're not going to do that. So, a good plan is some anywhere from 2 to 10-pound weights, and just doing some light weights to help build and keep our muscles, our bones really strong, and to increase if they start to get a little thin. We also want to make sure that we don't do certain yoga postures. Now this is interesting because if you have osteoporosis, even in a class, just don't do these postures that we're getting ready to talk about, but then we'll talk about the ones that we can do. So one thing we don't want to do is we don't do anything that rounds over. Now it isn't just because if we have a dowager's hump, maybe we have that humping through here. The rounding over actually puts too much strain on the lower back. Is, like to round over when you already have some osteoporosis, rounding over this way is going to put too much strain on the lower back, and then that's going to cause where some fractures are going to come from. So we don't want to do that. So this means for those of you who have osteo, no forward folds. Now that might hurt your feelings a little bit, but you can do other things other than forward fold. So in a traditional class, if you do a sun salutation, you tend to reach the arms up on the inhale, exhale, fold over go into a forward fold. So if you have osteo, skip that part. What you can do from there, instead of just folding over and coming up into a half lift, good thing, plank is good for osteoporosis. So you can go straight from here to getting down to dropping to your knees and getting onto a plank pose. Or you can skip salutation altogether. If you can't find a smooth transition, you don't feel good about that, skip the salutation and just wait till people are in plank and go to plank. That's all you have to do. So with osteo, since you're eliminating rounding over, you're going to do the opposite. You're going to add things that are good for osteo. For instance, Cobra pose, where the chest is lifted. The back bending is what is good for counteracting the dowager's hump.
Oh.
Even if you have like rounded shoulders, I used to have rounded shoulders. You know why? It's because I got this height at 11 years old. When you're 11 and you're 5'8", you go like this, you slump, you kind of try to, disappear. So I was very tall, very young, and I had that rounding. But the yoga, I noticed, but over time it just went away. And it just comes, I didn't have osteo. You guys understand that. It was just for me slumping so much that, boy, when I started retracting those shoulder blades, this is me sitting in a normal position. I'm so used to doing this that I always sit like, I'm ready for whatever, but that's just how I sit. So, plank is great. Quadruped position, is great. We'll go through some of the postures, and Janet will show what those postures are. So, if you guys got osteo, please remember, don't do any forward folding, anything that rounds the body over. You want to constantly be getting a nice tall lift and then rolling the shoulder blades back. So those things are good to know. Now I have a private student who just found out she had osteoporosis. And I was like, Michelle, her name's Michelle, I won't give you last name, but I said, we're gonna have to change everything that we do, in our private class. And she didn't know that. Doctor didn't even tell her she had to change anything. She takes private lessons from me, and so we're gonna have to change everything about. She can't do any more forward folds. She's tiny, she's your size, she's tiny and just too young to have that stuff going on.
Wow.
So this is what we have to know about it. So we're gonna go through some traditional things and explain to you out there through Janet, because she's been gracious enough to come and join us here. So we're gonna start there, okay?
Okay.
So I want you to, first of all, we're gonna come into a bridge pose. So Janet, lay down on my mat and have your head facing that way. Your head facing that way.
Okay.
Like lay on your back, but your head up at that top of the
Okay.
head. Oh, does that heat feel so heavenly?
It does.
Oh. Excuse me. So, even Shavasana, our ending posture right here, we're going to change this up just a little bit to counteract for if Janet had osteoporosis. First of all, we're going to, Janet, bend your knees and place the soles of the feet on the floor. So this is going to be a more comfortable position for women with osteo. First of all, if they have the dowager's hump, laying flat is going to be very uncomfortable, So bending the knees and letting the soles of the feet go on the floor is going to be so much softer on the lower back. So, but this is also the beginning of the next posture that we're going to go into, which is bridge pose, which is going to be great for osteo. So Janet, walk your feet have them about hip width apart, and then get them close to the bum is what feels natural. There you go. Now, from here, I want you to push your hips up toward the sky. So just lift them up toward there we go, bridge. Now, what happens here is she's getting a lift, so she's using some weight-bearing exercise here. It's not an easy thing to lift your bum up and pressing your feet in. So this can get really a lot of good work into your bum. So Janet, if you're able to, I want you to clasp your hands behind your back, up underneath your back, and kind of roll the shoulders down the back a little bit, and now lift the hips up even higher. So this is bridge pose. This is a good one for osteo. She is keeping weight on all four corners of her body. She's pressing into her feet. She's pulling and retracting the shoulder blades down with the hand clasp underneath. So this is a great one. Now Janet, release the hands out from underneath and just pull, allow yourself to go right back down toward the floor. Good job. Now, from here, I want you to roll to one side or the other and come onto all fours with your head facing the same way. Yeah. So in your all fours here, have your hands about shoulder width apart, your knees about hip width apart, so just a little bit wider. She's up on her toes here. So this is a quadruped position. And Janet, let's make this an active posture. So I want you to just retract the shoulder blades down the back. No, not round them up, but like pull them down. Oh, there you go. Did you guys see that? Do that again. Round up toward a little bit. See, we don't want that. So let the shoulders sink down, and she pulls them down. She gets a lot flatter right in through here. So her retracting the shoulder blades down is going to help get rid of that rounding of the upper spine. That's going to be great for her. And she's also has hands, knees, and feet on the floor. So again, she's fully supported. She's using the floor as the pressure against the floor, which is giving her some weight-bearing exercise here, believe it or not. So let's add in a couple of things that women with osteo can do. Janet, reach your left leg out just to hip height. Beautiful. So in this, she gets really strong. Now what everybody wants to do is they want to lean too much in the knee, so I want you to kind of shift where you bounce. Oh, isn't that harder? So balancing out just a little bit, but she's still really pulling the shoulder blades down. She's pressing her hands into the floor. Perfectly fine posture. Now let that knee go back down to the earth, and just so we can equal out, go ahead and do the other one as well. So she'll extend the opposite leg out. This is a balancing posture here. So let's add a little flavor onto this one. Janet, I want you to take your opposite arm and reach it forward and come into a balancing pose. Now balancing postures are great for osteo as well, because again, you're using weight-bearing exercise, and you're also learning to pull your core in and to get really, really strong. So go ahead and release that down. Beautiful. And I want you to go from here, Janet, to down dog. So just lift your hips up into the air, and then as you exhale, just push back. Now, great job. Now, she has got a great position here. You can widen the feet about hip width apart or so, pushing the chest back toward. This is a great posture here as well. It's going to strengthen the whole body. It's going to work into her bone structure, and she's not doing any rounding, because she's pulling her shoulder blades down the back as she presses her hands in and her chest back toward her thighs. It's absolutely wonderful for that. So Janet, from here, I want you to come into a plank pose. Now plank pose is going to build a lot of strength. The body is nice, and now here, Janet, can you retract the shoulder blades down the back? Not round up, but like pull them, yeah, there you go, pull them back down. We want to always be pulling the bottom of the shoulder blades down to kind of keep that rounding from happening. So now she's getting some weight-bearing exercise as well. Nice, strong plank, great for her, beautiful. So come down to your knees. We're going to go on to another one, and come to stand on your knees. So just walk your hands back and stand on your knees. Okay, good job. So oddly enough, back bending is good for osteo, right? But you know what isn't? Deep twists and deep side bends are not. That can put too much strain again on the lower back. So it's okay to do some side bending, and it's okay to do some twisting, but you have to do it very carefully. You don't want to go deep into the posture. So we're going to show Janet how she can do that. So Janet, raise the arms up on the inhale. Just raise them up toward the sky. And as you exhale, kind of just put one hand down and side bend toward me a little bit, just a little bit. Now there's all she should go. Now do an extended one, because you don't have osteo. She should not go really far into that, because what happens here is it puts too much strain on the lower back. So she just does a light bend toward the side. We want to do a little bit of twisting and side bending, because we want to make the spine more pliable, more flexible, and moving in different directions. So we don't just want to have, one or two directions that we do. So take that, bring the other arm up on the inhale, and as you exhale, do it the other side. So just drop that arm down, a little bit of light side bending here. This is great. She's getting some movement into the spine without going too far or tweaking into the lower back. So these are awesome. So from here, Janet, just bring that hand down. Get up nice and tall again. Now one thing that she can do as well is she can do a bit of camel postures. Not full postures, but a little bit of back bending. So what I want you to do, Janet, for a couple of rounds is I want you to inhale, lift the chest up, and as you exhale, just roll just the upper back down a little bit, just where it's, so you're not tweaking in here. So just lift the shoulders up, and then as you roll them down, just keep the lower spine immovable, and just let that upper back, you feel how tense, how hard that is to just round the upper back?
It
and
is.
It
I'm
is.
not sure I know how to do that.
You're doing it, okay, you come out of it for a second, and I'll show you what I mean then. So I'm gonna show her, and I'm gonna face her a little bit, and you guys at the same time. So when I teach back bends, I don't like people just like throwing their lower back, because what you'll do is you'll get that kind of shortened area, you don't wanna do that. So I tell people keep the hips pulled in, and to practice lifting the shoulders up and rolling them down, lifting the chest. So I'm lifting the chest and rolling the shoulders back. Lifting the chest, rolling the shoulders back. And you'll watch, guys at home, watch that all the back bending that I do isn't ever going into my lower back. It is just this upper back area. So I just continue to do that. My hips stay forward. I lift and roll, lift and roll. Sounds easy, right? It's not. So, but this is a little bit of camel posture. Now, camel posture, you'll see it often. People have their hands on their heels, but what you'll see a lot is you'll see people curve too much and have the hips, and you don't want to do that. You want to try to keep the hips stable and reach back, and keep the upper shoulders rolling back and the chest lifting. So we're not here to talk about that. But what we do want to talk about is how osteo can happen in back bending. Not happen, but can help in back bending. So Janet, I want you to just do that, like lift the chest, roll the shoulders down, hold there, and then lift the chest and maybe roll it one more time. Oh, she looks beautiful. So this is a modified camel pose. Now Janet, just crane your neck, let your chin drop a little bit. There we go. So sometimes that neck, those are fussy little bones around in the neck, so we don't want to do anything. But she's doing a little back bending, but she's keeping it really safe in that lower spine. Beautiful job. Now just sit back down. Great job. Back bending's fine. Don't overdo it, of course, until you're ready for it, but a little bit of back bending. Another one that's great is Cobra pose. So I want you to lay on your belly and have the hands a little bit up underneath the shoulders and come into Cobra. Tops of feet are pressing in. She's going to roll her chest up and gaze goes a little bit forward. Keep the elbows pulled in, and right here, Cobra pose. Cobra is great for that because again, we're working into retracting the shoulder blades down and pulling away, because a dowager's hump is pushing out. You don't want to do anything that makes that worse. You want to really retract the shoulder blades back and lifting the chest. That's a beautiful Cobra, by the way. So from here, lower the chest back down to the floor and come back up into that all fours position. Beautiful. Now up and back into down dog. Great job. From there, Janet, I want you to look forward, and I want you to walk and get up to the top of the mat. Just like walk toward the top of the mat.
Okay.
Just get up to the top, however you want to do it. Yep, there you go, there you go. Now remember, we don't do forward folds, right?
Yeah,
So
so
when
come
she
on
gets
up.
to come on up, yeah.
Right.
So what happens with a traditional sun salutation is forwarding over, and then, what are we doing? We're rounding over, so we don't want to do that. So in a traditional class, maybe while they're here, you go here, and then maybe you can come down to the knees, and then come into quadruped, and then up into down dog. So you're skipping and eliminating all those things. And so another thing that might happen, Janet, is if you're in a regular class and you do what I just did, and then everybody else is, and where everybody's in down dog. So what happens if the teacher says, okay, raise the right leg and step it between the hands? If you can do that, that's fine. But what happens if we can't? We're already suffering a little bit. So we want to just stay in down dog. And then look, make our way back up to the front, bend our knees, hands to hips, and come up that way. That way you're not rounding. Does that make sense? So from there we can have the standing postures. Now what I read about this, osteo, is that you can do standing postures. Any of the standing postures are going to be fine. So warriors are going to be fine. Warrior 1, 2, 3, they're going to be fine. The triangle is going to be fine. But what we have to be careful is revolved ones. So let's talk a little bit about revolved postures. You're in twists many times in a class. So Janet, I want you to turn back around to the front of the mat and take your right leg back into a lunge and bend that front knee. Beautiful. Now bring your hands to heart center and say a teacher calls for a twist. So whenever you want to do a lunge twist, I want you, Janet, to just turn your elbows toward the left. Is that the left or is that the right?
This is.
Yeah, that's the left, yeah.
Which
Turn your
left?
hands to the left. And then this can be your light twist here. Or you can take this outer right elbow and rest it a little bit on the thigh if you want to. And just kind of see, she has a little bit of twisting going on. She's not going into extreme twist. So this is going to be perfectly fine. But show them what not to do. Don't get into a real deep twist. Like do a deep twist here. This is what you would not do if you had osteo. Get really deep. You want to keep it very shallow and just have a slight twist over. So that's great. You can pull yourself up out of that now. Beautiful. Now revolve triangle is going to be the same thing. Come into a regular triangle for me. Yeah, arms out. This is great for osteo, by the way. This triangle pose. Yep, and come into that triangle pose. So here's her triangle. Don't go down so far, Jen. Come about halfway up on your, that way you can get a little bit more, and try to open your chest. Okay, triangle's going to be fine. Now, what happens if a revolve triangle? Come back up. And this time, as you exhale, this backhand is going to go to the floor. And this other arm is going to come up. This is what we do not do in osteo. So does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You know, can you feel the strain here? Mm-hmm. So what happens, we'll do a come back up. Let's say you're in osteo, you have osteo and you're in a regular class and the instructor calls for revolve triangle. Do a modified form of that. So just come out and inhale here. As you exhale, this backhand's going to come and rest on the thigh or above or below the knee. And then you're just going to take this hand, drop it around here, and then you're just going to lift your chest, and there we go. See, that's nice and real. She's pulling the shoulders down the back. She's not rounding over, and she's bringing a little bit of that posture in. Let me tell you, it's nobody's business why you're modifying your posture. You don't want anybody to know you have osteo. Do the modifications and honor your body. It's nobody's business. You don't have to explain that to anybody. This is a beautiful pose right here, what she's got. She's able to do the posture and do it safely for her body. So unbind yourself, Janet. Beautiful. And step back up to the front of the mat. Great one, too, is mountain pose for osteo. Why? Because you can, she did it. She's a good student. She rolled those shoulders down and lifted that chest up, and her hands are, oh, she feels so good. This is great. So anything that we can retract the shoulder blades down the back. So do we just do mountain? We suck our belly in too. How does sucking the belly in relate to that? Well, if you leave it out and roll the shoulders back, you don't feel it as much. But boy, you suck that belly in and then roll those shoulders back. You feel the intensity in the entire body, and you feel all of that. So we're going to release that. We're going to face the camera just for a second. So Janet, honestly, what we need to do is length and extension. No rounding in osteo, everything that we do. So even if you are at a class and you have this problem, whatever the teacher's calling, you can always, I like it when students tell me, hey, I've got this problem or that problem. I want to know because I want to help them if I can.
You're very good at that.
Well, thank you. I
very,
appreciate
very good at that.
I didn't pay her or anything.
No.
So yeah, no. Well, I appreciate that. But I tell you, I want to know what's happening in people's bodies. Some people are not comfortable doing that, you know. So if you have it, you're not comfortable telling, just please take the modifications. Just remember, no rounding over, belly's always sucked in, weight bearing exercise, you know, you're doing that, you're pulling the shoulder blades down, you're modifying your twists so you don't have to worry about hurting into the lower back or fracturing a bone. It's as easy as that. So this is my friend Janet. I really appreciate her coming. She drove about like 30 minutes to get here, so very kind.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. So we're just going to say namaste at this point. And thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.